Have you ever wanted to tell your spouse, either this is going to happen or you are out of here? Or maybe you had the experience where your husband or wife has said that same kind of thing to you. Here's an ultimatum that you must live by. You're going to do this or else. How did you feel about that? And when you want to do it, how do you think your spouse might feel about that? Be sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you click that bell, anytime a new video comes out, you'll know about it right away. Are ultimatums good? Are they bad? Or are they somewhere in between? Well, an ultimatum basically says this: there's a certain thing that either needs to stop or a certain thing that needs to occur, and you have a certain time limit in which to do what I want you to do. So either you're going to stop drinking by the time that we get to the next Monday, let's say, or you're actually going to have to start doing something like going to the AA meetings to help you with that drinking. And if you don't do what I tell you to do, then here's a pretty negative consequence that's going to occur. Now, the consequence can be anything from we're going to divorce, to we're going to separate, to we're never going to make love again until you do this the right way, to whatever a person's mind can conjure. Are they good? Because ultimatums basically say, this is not something that's optional. This is something that has to occur. Either it has to stop or it has to happen, but there is no in between. You have to do it. Well, how do you think people typically react to something like that? Well, there's this thing in psychology called self-determination. It first began to manifest itself in human beings at about age 2. You've heard of the terrible 2s, I'm sure, which are followed by the more terrible 3s. And that's when a child finally begins to think, I'm not necessarily a part of you anymore. I've got my own identity. I want to make my own decisions. And 2-year-olds can make some really bad decisions, but they're trying to assert themselves, and it's all about me, my, and telling you that you need to get out of their way and all kinds of things like that because they want to self-determine. You say, well, then you make it sound bad. It can be a little bad on a toddler, of course, but at the same time, it's good because of the fact they're learning to be able to take care of themselves, to function in life, to be able to trust themselves, rely on themselves, and so that's good. But now, when self-determination gets up into another part of life, everybody wants to do it. And if you're forced to do something you don't want to do, if you do it because you're trying to avoid the negative consequence, that's what's called an avoidance motive. I'm not doing it for me. I'm not doing it because I gained something. I'm doing it because of the fact that I'm trying to avoid the negative consequence from you. Now, we all do some things for avoidance motives. If you're driving down the interstate and you see a policeman and you slow down, that's an avoidance motive. I'm going to slow down to the speed limit because I don't want that negative consequence. I don't want the ticket that will come if I'm caught speeding. So we all do some of that. And even in relationships, we do a little bit of negative consequences and avoidance motives. And so if it's just kind of here or there, it doesn't make that much difference. But when you come to an ultimatum, it's a big thing, because now you're setting an ultimatum, this thing that has to occur, and a negative consequence, so that if you don't do exactly as I'm saying, you're not going to be happy with what happens next. Now, that definitely flies in the face of self-determination, and definitely an avoidance motive, but it's not a little avoidance. It's not like slowing down not to get the ticket. It's a major avoidance because sometimes you think, you are asking me to do something outside of my own will. You're wanting me to obey your will. So people often reject it. I'm not going to do what you ask me to do, even though they know that the consequence is coming, and they face the consequence. Other people, because they want to avoid the consequence, will do it, but then resent the fact that they did, because it's like, oh, what about me? What about what I want? What about my life? And so typically speaking, you're going to have a negative reaction to an ultimatum. Does that mean you should never give one? No. Sometimes you really should give ultimatums. You say, really? When? Okay. If it's to control another person, don't do it. Just don't. Because of the fact that people hate being controlled. But if it's something that you have to do because destructive behavior is occurring, so that something has to either stop or happen to change the direction that your marriage is headed or that a person is headed, then in that sense, while it might feel like control to the other person, your motive is not to control them. Your motive is to stop the negative that's going to occur if they keep doing that, or if they don't do the good thing. And now it's not, I'm trying to control you to make you bend to my will. It's like, I'm trying to stop what needs to be stopped before it winds up in a major problem, or get you to do something that'll fix a problem before it becomes a major problem. Or maybe it already is a major problem and we now need to change direction on it. And so giving you an ultimatum that you're going to treat me like a king, that's bad. That's control. But an ultimatum that you can't drive again drinking when the kids are in the car, now that's an ultimatum that would make sense. And so understand that your motive in giving it makes all the difference in the world. And therefore, if you're going to give an ultimatum, you really need to think it through carefully so that you don't get just a negative response, you don't have just the negative consequence, but that the other person, even if he or she doesn't like it initially, can wind up seeing the benefit of it and ultimately wind up not resenting or rejecting, but thanking you because of that. Now, is there a way to do that? Absolutely there is. Well, there are two sides of that. Hopefully you heard. We'd love to hear from you about how you have been able to deal with control, either to stop being controlling or how to get your spouse not to control or dominate you. And you can tell us your story about that just below, and we'd love to hear that in the comments section. Here's a free thing I would love to give you if you wish to have it. It's an ebook about being controlled. If you feel your spouse is using ultimatums and other things to control you, you really want this ebook. It'll help you think some things through. And you can have it just by clicking the link that's on your screen or the link that's in the show notes if you're listening by audio. But there's something even more. I have developed a course called the Definitive Guide to Boundaries Toolkit, or just call it the Boundaries Toolkit if you will. And it talks about when do you make ultimatums and when do you not. And if you're going to set an ultimatum, which ones you should do and which ones that really you shouldn't do. And if you're going to do it, how to do it in such a way that it's not dominating and controlling the other person. It's for a very good reason to stop some kind of destructive behavior. There are 10 videos in it and a PDF workbook that'll actually help you think through step by step by step by step if you're going to create some kind of ultimatum. Now, it's available at the link that you see on your screen, or if you're listening by audio, it's in the show notes there. You can click that link. But I'm telling you, I think you'll find that one of the best aids to help you understand ultimatums you could ever find. So at least get the free ebook. Get that if you will. So, ultimatums, good? Bad? It's according to how it's done.